What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of NATO? Tanks? Ships? Jets? What about intelligence? Since 1990, new information and communication technologies have revolutionised how we operate, connecting forces in real time, shrinking the battlefield, and enabling near-instant decision-making. True information superiority is only effective if it empowers our leaders to make faster, more informed decisions without being overwhelmed. That's why NATO commanders must understand their environment to better anticipate challenges and act decisively. Our team travelled to Sigonella Air Base in Sicily, the heart of NATO intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance operations, to meet the men and women who work in the military intelligence loop. This multinational force is providing the critical information that ensures NATO's readiness and ability to respond to any threat on its territory. Today, we have exclusive access to an intelligence gathering mission. In a few hours, Luca, a remotely operated aircraft pilot, and Hani, a sensor operator, will be conducting a maritime surveillance mission. Before commencing, they need to brief the team and all key players. Meanwhile, on the other side of the base, technicians are preparing the RQ-4 Phoenix for flight.
Today our mission will be a total of about 22 hours flying, and there will be initial part where we'll be flying into the Mediterranean Sea to find, detect and check if there are any unknown vessels that might be potential conducting illegal traffic towards the southern flank of the NATO nations. The remote pilot aircraft is an unmanned air vehicle. With the new technology, the only way we can maneuver the aircraft is the mouse and keypad. I give commands with the mouse and the aircraft just steering or change altitudes or speed. He needs to follow specific path, but he's fully integrated within the normal airspace and fly together with other aircraft.
Copy, Magma 10.
Sitting next to the pilot in the cockpit, the sensor operator is controlling another mission.
My job could be more or less like a photographer.
But a photographer who is not taking pictures with a lens.
Underneath the Phoenix there's a special radar that can make images very far. We can shoot during the daytime or even at nighttime because the radar sends radar waves.
His work isn't just limited to photography. Multitasking is essential for both him and the pilot.
I have to control the sensor. If there's any issues, I have to troubleshoot it and try to fix anything that's going on and tracking everything at the same time.
During surveillance missions over the sea, Hani and his fellow analysts often notice unusual maritime traffic.
If there's any kind of boat that's not identifying itself and not telling us who it is, we can see those tracks and we can make a picture of it and see who it is and what kind of size it has and a lot of information. It could be carrying some kind of illegal stuff or drugs or immigrants.
All data collected by the sensors of the RQ-4 are transmitted in real time.
These antennas here are used to transmit the link here from Sigonella using higher radio frequencies up to the satellite in space, down to the aircraft, and then back, returning from the aircraft, up to the satellite and down to Sigonella again to the antennas, and then distributed to the system.
Meanwhile, analysts in the office next door are receiving in near real time 2 types of data. The first type are still images used for tagging an object and assessing the situation.
The radar is like a beam. The beam hits the ground, and at the black areas there's no return because it gets absorbed from those areas. So we don't get any information from this back. The white areas, we get information back. So the beam hits the ground and reflects.
Even if the images are precise, there are still limits.
I think the most difficult ones is when we're looking into a harbor, because with radar, if something is moving, we can get some unclear images, and then it's getting more difficult for us to interpret what are we seeing.
The second type of data is a scan of the area, which is able to detect objects and track movements on the ground.
We are not seeing an image, it's just seeing dots as a movement.
Differing from reconnaissance missions, surveillance is a more prolonged and deliberate activity for building an intelligence picture and pattern of life, and making comparisons with live and dynamic feeds.
It's important for us to make an analysis and collecting of information to find out first what is normal, to say then later that's unnormal and that's maybe a threat to us.
Data is what we collect. We then have analysts who exploit those data and make sense of them, and we produce information that might have an intel value.
The intelligence value is when you can tell a decision maker that that truck is crossing that bridge because it's going to this destination, or it came from this location. And the person driving it is from this nation, and this is why they're crossing this bridge.
It has to have one predictive aspect. You have to say something about a future development.
That's the difference between information, which is basically data, and intelligence, which is a useful product that decision makers can use to develop strategy, to plan operations, and then also to respond in a crisis or a conflict scenario.
Alongside analysing data from these missions, the analysts also receive data from across network commands, which they use to produce intelligence.
We manage all exploitation of images in NATO, making sure that the analysts here and in the different nations receive the right image at the right time with the right requirements.
The intelligence that we've derived from the data is essentially hung in the cloud, and then it is available to all 32 nations in NATO. We also have the raw data, so if their intelligence functions have a need for that data, they can readily access that data, and they can also access the full completed intelligence products.
When information is time critical, if it is support to a targeting operation, if you're supporting troops in combat on the ground, you don't have time to make intelligence product. You need to disseminate the information as quick as possible. And then all the NATO commands are connected through a JChat system. We are on NATO's internet. We have a theater threat reporting room where all those bits and snippets of information is sent 24/7, 365 to all the levels of command.
Our primary mission right now is defense and deterrence of the alliance, but the same capabilities can be brought to bear in a natural disaster situation, working with nations to provide them information on migratory routes and wildlife, things of that nature. So that ability to glean intelligence and information isn't just restricted to the military, peace, crisis, and conflict situation. Wherever NATO needs information, we are there to provide it.
After a 21-hour flight, the plane returns to Sigonella. As soon as it lands, technicians pick it up and begin their maintenance. In this type of remotely piloted system, redundancy is crucial. All emergency systems must be tested.
Today we have started an emergency landing gear test. That means we have to retract the landing gear, and after that we reduce the pressure and say to this aircraft, you lost all the hydraulic pressure. And the aircraft has to realize that we have to extend the gear without hydraulic pressure.
For security reasons, all systems are screened, down to even the smallest component, including the bolts.
I write a documentation or a certificate that these bolts are serviceable. This is very important for an Air Force member, that we are only install parts which are serviceable.
While maintenance is an integral part of the Reconnaissance Force mission, crew training is also essential, with personnel from 20 different nations working here.
We need to take them to a common standard in order to make sure that they can deliver a mission, follow similar procedures.
The centre trains not only its own staff, but also other NATO military and civilian personnel.
When we operate inside NATO, it's very important to have a common understanding. We can be more effective, more coordinated, and increase the interoperability between the units in NATO and the allied nations.
To be at the cutting edge of training, the centre uses virtual reality technology.
We can use this kit to pretend that we are doing the maintenance like in real life. So we can play different scenarios, like doing, for example, the safer maintenance. So we can show the pupils before getting to the aircraft how to do the steps. It's easier, it's cheaper, and it's also quite detailed. So we have the real aircraft in virtual reality inside, and also the panels and the maintenance we are doing inside this program is like in real world.
The Intelligence, Surveillance and Reconnaissance Force provides timely information to NATO's decision makers. In order to exploit the growing quantity of data and optimise the analytical process, this NATO force is committed to areas of activity such as artificial intelligence, automation and machine learning. In the future, this unit is preparing to respond to new data inputs such as electronic intelligence signals or open source intelligence. This will enhance their ability to gather and share intelligence, enabling a swift and coordinated response to any threat and protect all nations in the alliance.